Hi guys, before we start the video, I wanted to take a second to let you guys know the hat that I make in this tutorial comes out a tad bit bigger than the hat that I originally made that I just set down and whipped together. The stitch count that we're going to be working with in the, like you'll see the part after we work our increase rounds, it's going to get to where we're just half double crocheting around. And what I come up with is 49. I'd say that's about 6 or 7 stitches too many. So at the last increase round, if you guys just want to work 6 half double crochets, then an increase, and then work your normal half double crochet round. And if that's still at like 49, 48, 47, pull that out and only work just a couple increases to where you can get at least 40, 41, 42, 43, somewhere in there, because 49 is a tad bit too big. And if I can pinch that off, it'd probably come down to about 40, 43 half double crochets. And it's kind of one of those things, honestly, it's the nature of the beast when you're working a project that you can't see your stitches, you can only feel them. So I just wanted to jump on here real quick and let you guys know that's the deal that could potentially happen. And if you guys happen to start working your half double crochet rounds and you're at like 40, 42, 43, 44, 45, somewhere in there, just not to the 50s, that's too much. Then, you know, if you've got that many, and then you're perfect. Just keep working your rounds until it comes to the bottom of your earlobe. Anyway, apologies, I wanted to jump on here and tell you guys that. But like I said, it's kind of one of those things when you're working a project that you can't see what you're doing. Alright, let's get back to the video. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial, we are going to be working on these faux fur hats. This is the kids hat, and this is the adult's hat. And these are quite thick hats. Whenever I put it on and showed Matt, he said I look like I need to be out in the wilderness of Siberia with those real thick hats. That's what these look like. These are super thick. The child's is about 8.5. But it's almost an inch thick. Like this right here is an inch. And then from the top, and then it's about 7 inches long. So this hat fits my mannequin that fits into a 5T, 6T, or 6T. Fits into like 5, 6, 7-year-old clothes. So I would say that would be a good age range for this. And if it needs to be bigger, I'll show you guys. And you can give it a good tug and it stretches out. And then the adults, which fits my mannequin perfect. My mannequin has, I don't know, she's got like a normal sized head where I've got real thick bushy hair. So but mine is an 11 inches. And then it's, I'd say a good 1.5 inches thick. And then from the very top to the bottom is about 8 inches. And basically the length, the way we get our length is putting it on I'm going to say the head, and then making sure your ears are covered with the hat. So like your ears, the bottom of your earlobe is inside of the hat and it's not setting right at your earlobe, because we want our ears to stay warm. I just about said cold. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to need. So the adult hat, you're going to need 2 skeins of Go for Faux. So this color is Chinchilla, and then the white one is Baked Alaska. So for the adult, get 2 skeins. For the kids, you only need 1 skein. And then you are going to need a 9mm hook, scissors, needle to weave in your ends, and you are going to need a stitch marker. The number of stitch markers is going to completely be up to your ability, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is not an easy hat to make. basically what we are going to be doing is feeling our way for the stitches because we can't see them. And once you get the hang of it, it's going to be a lot easier than what you think. Just at the beginning, it's not that easy. It's a little tough, but we're going to get through it. And the awesome part about it is if you mess up, it's not that big of a deal because nobody can see it. Nobody's going to see it. Okay? Let's see. What else do I need to tell you? You are going to need the head that you're making the hat for. Only because the length of the hat, you really need to have the person's head that you're making it for. Like, you can just pop it off and take it with you. Anyway, let's get started. So I'm going to find the tail of my yarn here. And the way I'm going to do this tutorial, both hats start exactly the same. And I will tell you where to stop for the kids hat, and then just hold on a second, let me get the adult hat done, or just, fast forward through the video, and then I will show you guys how we move on from there. Clear as mud, right? Perfect sense. Okay, so let's get started with this. So we're going to get a slip knot, and make sure you're leaving enough tail so we can weave in that end. Okay? And get that on our hook. I want to get a piece of paper so I can write down what to show you guys. All right. Sorry, just one last step before we start. I wanted to make sure I was prepared. Okay, so we are going to start with a chain of 5. However, that very first chain, hold on to it, okay, so we don't lose it. So what I'm just going to do is chain 1. I cannot see that. I can't see it at all. But I'm going to feel, and I can feel a little, like this shape is what I'm feeling. So like an oval, that's the first chain. So keep your finger in that, or fingers. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to come down to where we're holding, go in there, and then we're going to work a slip stitch. And now what I'm doing is finding that, well, your finger, my finger just popped right through there. Find that loop or that ring that we created by slip stitching, and then I'm going to take my tail and pull it up, and it'll tighten up that that slip stitch or that chain that we slip stitched into. Okay, now we're going to chain 1. And I still got my finger in there. All right, so to start row 1, we're going to work 8 half double crochets into it. Now, I chose half double crochets for this pattern for a reason. I'll get to that in just a second. But we are going to just start going in there. Make sure you're working over your tail. We're just going to go right in there with a half double. Right like that. Now with this yarn, you kind of get a little lucky because I can see right there is the top of that stitch. If you are using a different color and you cannot see the top of that stitch, all I want you to do is get in there and feel. Feel in there. And you can feel a little bit of a gap and then just mark it. Does it need to be exact? No. We just need to mark the beginning so we don't lose it in all of the fluff as we're working. So that's 1. Now we're going to go 2, 3. I'm going to stop and make sure I'm still over my tail. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my working yarn, I'm going to pull up a loop, and then I'm going to take this tail. Now be very careful because the other day when I was, pause that story, let me tell you this story first. So the reason I decided to come up with this hat was that I had recently went through my yarn and I was kind of destashing, and I forgot that I had all this that Matt had bought me. And as I was going through the yarn, I thought, man, I could just watch our show and just sit down and whip out a hat on this. And that's what I did. I just sit down and I did my thing and got done. And I was like, wow, that is such a cute hat. I love it. So then I posted it on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Do you guys want a pattern for this? And everybody's response was yes, we want a pattern for kids also. So I was like, oh, that I can do this. Well, then when I sit down to make it, I was like, oh no, I don't remember what I did. So I sat down and I thought, well, I'll just try to work up another one and write down what I did. Well, as I got to this part, what I did was I took my tail and I pulled it. Well, I got to pulling a little too hard and it all just popped and just came right apart in my hands. And I just sat there for like 5-6 seconds with the yarn and pieces in my hands looking at it going, oh my God, really? So I had to start all over. So, point of the story, do not pull your tail too tight or you're going to pop it right off. All you want to do is pull until you feel the yarn shift through your stitches that are in your hand right here. You'll feel it shift a little, stop. That's good enough. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we're going to come over and we're going to slip stitch. We're going to feel our way for that gap. And then we're going to slip stitch into that. So I can feel the gap right there. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out and I'm just going to insert my hook right there. And we're going to slip stitch. Okay? And I still got my finger in that gap. And that was the end of round 1. So we should have 8. I can't tell if we have 8 or not. I'm gonna go with it and say we got 8. All right, so now we're gonna chain 1, and for round 2, we're gonna work increases into each stitch that we can find all the way around. So we have what we think are 8. So now what we're gonna do is work 2 half doubles into each of the 8. So we should be around 16. If we can't get 16, it's not a big deal. Nobody's gonna see it. Okay, so we just chained 1. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go right back into that gap I can feel. And I'm going to work 1 half double, stop. I can't see that stitch in there. So I'm just going to feel for the gap. And if you've, like, I have beef stick fingers. I have big fingers, like fat fingers. But I can put the tip of my finger through the top of that stitch. So I'm just going to run a stitch marker right in there. So that's our first one. So we know that's where we stop. Okay, so that was 1. Now we need to yarn over and come right back into that gap. I've still been holding it with 2. Now I'm going to come over, and here's where I wanted to show you guys what we're going to be feeling for. This is why I chose the half double crochets, okay? This is done. We're done with that. All right. When we're feeling for where our stitches need to go, the shape we should be feeling for is kind of like this. So up close to this, double crochet we just worked. So like, let's say this is the post of the double crochet we just worked, or the half double, I'm sorry, the half double we just worked. All you got to do is where your yarn is coming out of the fluff, feel for that post. And you'll feel it, and then come down, and when you come down a little bit, you'll feel a real thick part right here, and then it gets kind of thin, and that's the top of your stitch. It's probably the only part that you're going to be feeling that you can get the tip of your finger through. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I hope it helps. But right there is where we need to go. So we're going to work 2 half doubles into that. And I'm not letting go of that hole. I still got a good grip on it. Okay, so now right there is where I worked into. So now I'm just going to come over a little bit and start feeling for that hole. If you can get the tip of your finger in it, right there is where we're going to go with 2 more. So if we worked into 3, so that's 6. Sorry, I'm thinking. I can't remember if I just worked 2 double crochet or 2 half doubles or not. I think I did. Okay, so now I'm going to feel for the next. right there. So I'm going to work 2 into that. Feeling for the next. And they do get a little tight because, you know, we put 5 into a ring, or I'm sorry, 8 into a ring, and then we tightened it so it bunched them up a little bit. But I promise in a minute it's going to get so much easier. Once we can just get past this. Okay, I got my next one. So I'm going to work 2 into there. Find my next. It's right there. So I'm going to go 2 into there. This one's, I think it's right there. So I'm going to work 2 into there. And then I'm going to come over and I'm at the next one. I'm going to work 2 into there. And I think we've got 1 left. So this is where you need to, you know, concentrate and count. I think I worked into it already. So that should be the end. And now mine is measuring. So like I said, if you mess up, it's not a big deal. Nobody's going to see it. Like I haven't the slightest clue if I just did that right. But I'm going to measure without the fluff. So I'm about 2.5 inches right there. If it's a little bit bigger, maybe go back a little, pull out a little bit, and then try to, you know, go, make sure you're finding your stitches and you're going 2 for 2, or 2 for each stitch. Okay, so that was the end of round 2. So for round 3, I'm going to come right over here and I'm getting my fingers in that first stitch. I'm going to move this so it focuses on me and not that. Okay, so I'm going to take out my stitch marker and I'm going to go right into that gap and we're going to work a slip stitch. Got my finger in that gap still. Chain 1. Okay, now we're going to work 1/2 double crochet and then we're going to increase into the next one. 1/2 and then increase. And just a refresher, increase, we work 2 half double into 1. So we're going to start with the half double, and I got my finger in there, and we're going to half double right in there. I'm going to stop and just throw a stitch marker in there. I have no idea what I just got a hold of, but it's something. All right, so I'm going to come over, wiggle around, and I can feel that nice gap right there, and that's where we're going to work our increase. And I just realized something. I forgot to tell you guys the reason I chose the half double crochet for this hat. The reason I did was because when you work a half double crochet with a thicker yarn like this, the top of that stitch is what gives you that nice thick, or not nice thick, but that nice open part at the top of your, like here's your back loop, here's your front loop that creates the heart. Right underneath there, right in here, is that thick, or that bigger size gap. I can't get my words out. That bigger size gap that makes it easy to, you know, to feel around to find that. Okay, so I worked 1. There's my increase. So I'm to 1. Feeling around. Increase. Feel around. There's my gap. 1. Feel around. There's my next gap. Increase. Feel around. There's my gap. 1. Feel around. There's my gap. Increase. Feel around. There's my gap. 1. Finding that hole. Increase. One. Feeling for that hole. Increase. Okay, feel around. There's 1. The next stitch gets 1 half double. The reason I'm saying that is because I wanted to stop for a second and I wanted to say, whenever you're feeling for your gap, don't be afraid to get a little rough with that, the fluff, the faux fur, because sometimes that kind of, like when you're holding it and you're kind of trying to find that gap, you may be pinching the fluff over the hole. So if you just kind of like wiggle your finger around, it might help, and it might just kind of, your tip of your finger pop through. But I was saying that because I was noticing that I was pinching the fluff, and I had to wiggle my fingers around to get it out of the way so I could feel the gap. And I said the next one gets 1. I couldn't remember. All right, wiggle it around. There, see it kind of come off? That one gets 2. Next one gets 1. Wiggle around. The next one gets, or the last one actually, gets 2. And there's a couple reasons I can tell that's the last one. First one being how close we are to that first stitch, you know, to that half double crochet. The second one is I can't feel the next gap. There's a big cluster of what the fur is on, that, like, I have no idea what you would call that, but you can feel it kind of clustered up right there, and that's how I knew that that was my last one. Another way I knew is that we started with a half double, we're going to end with an increase. Okay, so that was the end of round 3. So for round 4, get our finger in that gap, that very first gap right there, and we're going to slip stitch to that. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, slip stitch in that gap, and I'm going to keep a hold of it because we're getting ready to work back into it. Chain 1. All right, now we're going to work a half double into the first, half double into the next, and then an increase. So it's half double, increase, half double, increase. All right, so I still got my finger in there, and I'm going to work a half double into that, stop, and I'm just going to mark it. I'll find the hole later. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next, get my finger in there, and that one gets a half double. I got a knot. All right, so get myself back oriented. I'm feeling for the post of that half double, which I can feel is right there. Come down, there's the gap it's worked into. Come to the left of it, and there's the gap for the next, or for the increase. We're at an increase now. So we increase into that one. All right, now I'm just going to come over to the left, feel for that gap. 1 half double, come over, feel for the next. I got lost. Feel for the next. 1 half double, and the next gets an increase. Come over to the next. 1, over to the next. 1, over to the next. Increase. Next is 1. I got lost. Find my post. Come down. There's the gap it's in. Come over. Wiggle around. And that gets 1. And then I'm going to increase into the next. If that wasn't right, I apologize, but I don't remember what the last stitch I just worked was. That's okay, no big deal. So we just worked an increase, so I'm going to find my gap. There's 1. Find my gap. There's another one. Find my gap. Increase. Find my gap. 1. Find the gap. 2. Fingers into the next one. There's my increase. We're almost done with this round. I have a feeling this is going to be quite a long video. Alright, we just worked an increase, so found my gap, go in, there's 1, there's 1, and increase. Alright, there's 1, There's... Okay. So I can tell that nope. Increase into the last. I think it's right. Like I said, it's not a huge deal if it's not, because nobody's gonna see it. All right, so we have one more round for the kids hat, okay? So this is the last round for the kids hat. After we work the round I'm getting ready to work with you guys, for those of you making the kids hat, we're gonna stop, okay? So to move on to round 5, I'm gonna find the gap that for my first stitch marker, which I think it's right in there. And we are going to slip stitch. Chain 1, and now we're going to work 3 half double crochet and then increase into the next. So I got my finger still poked through there, and I'm going to work a half double into there. I'm going to stop and mark that. All right, now I'm going to half double into the next, and I got my finger in there. Half double into the next. There it is. And now into the next. This one's a little tough to feel. Oh, it's because that's where that knot was. Remember the knot that was just in my yarn? I feel it right there. That's why I couldn't figure out what I was squeezing on. Okay, that gets our increase. 1 and 2. So there's the next one. Make sure I'm not into it. 1, 2, 3. Next one. Increase. And something else I should have mentioned, but I think you guys probably realize by now, the increases, you'll feel the gap that you're feeling for is a little smaller than, you know, just into one of the half doubles. It's just a little smaller, but it's there. It might just be a little tighter on your finger, okay? So I just worked the increase. So I'm going to come down the post. I keep wanting to say stem. The stem of my... I'm going to come down the post of my half double, feel the gap that it's into, find the next gap right next to it. And half double into the next, and into the next, and into the next, which is a little bit tighter because it's an increase. I'm going to work my increase. All right, so I'm going to let you guys finish this one off camera. I think at this point you guys should be able to get a pretty good idea, you know, what you're doing. Like I said, if you lose track of what your last stitch was, you can try to feel, but it's not the huge deal. And at the end of this round, I'm going to give you the measurement of what we should have before we start coming down for the kids' hat, okay? All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've come to what I think is my last one, and it's an increase. And right after that, I feel the big, you know, a grouping of a bunch of the material the faux fur is attached to. So I can tell that that's the end. All right. So if you're making the kids' hat, stop here, and we should be measuring, and this is not exact, guys. It does not have to be exactly this, but I'm right at probably 6 inches. Like I'm trying to go through the fur and get to the actual stitches. And I'm about at 6 inches. If it's a little less or a little more, I mean, just adjust accordingly, obviously. Like if it's less, pull it out and maybe try working it again. Don't pull out that first stitch. And if it's a little more than that, then I'd maybe pull it out and try to do a little less, or adjust your hook, or just wing it. Go from there and make it work. Nobody's going to see the mistake. And then you just show everybody, and then you say, look how awesome my hat is. I'm so talented. I did such a great job. Nobody's going to know. All right, so if you're making the kids hat, stop there for me, and you can fast forward. I haven't the slightest clue how far, and then I will show you guys what to do to finish off your hat. But if you're gonna make the adult hat, stick with me and we're gonna move on. All right, so what we're going to do is wiggle our fingers in there until we can feel the gap of that first half double. Take your stitch marker out. And where you're going to work one half double into, or I'm sorry, blah, completely missed a step. We are going to slip stitch into that. I'm losing my tension, losing my mind. Chain one, and then right back in there with a half double. Now we're on track. All right, and we're just going to mark it. Just shove it in there. Okay, so now this round, I should have said this before we started, but this round we're going to work 4 half double crochet. My heater just kicked on. 4 half double crochet and then an increase into the next, okay? So that was 1. Find where I'm at again. There's the post. There's the gap it's in. Come to the left a little bit. Wiggle my fingers in there. And there it is. Right there. So now that's 2, go to the next, that's 3, go to the next, that's 4, and 5 is going to be a little tough. Like we work our 4 double, the next one that we're going to increase is going to be a tad bit tight because it's an increase from the previous round. So then we increase into the next. And then the next stitch is going to be a little tight because it's, I think it is. Maybe not. No, it's normal. Okay, so that was our increase. So now we're at 1, 2, there's 3, there's 4, and the next one gets the increase. Okay, so I am going to let you guys finish this round off camera. I think you guys can do it. I have faith in you, okay? 4 increase, or 4 half double, and then an increase. 4 half double, then an increase, okay? And if you lose track, you know, try to feel your way back to what your last stitch was. If it's a little clump of, you know, the material that the fur is on, then that's the increase. So then your next stitch is going to be the first of the 4. All right, so you guys can do this. I completely have faith in you. Just wiggle your fingers in those holes, okay? And I will meet you when we get to this side. Okay, guys, so I made it around, and I just worked an increase, and by feeling for where I'm at, I have 1 more stitch left, so I messed up somewhere. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to work a half double crochet into that, and we're going to call it great. Nobody will ever know. All right. That is the end of round 6, and that is the end of us increasing. Now, if the person you're making this hat for has a significantly larger than normal head, and you want to increase again, all you need to do is start the row exactly the same way that we did, but instead of working like the last round we just worked was 4 half doubles, then we increase, then just start it over again and work 5 half doubles, then increase, 5 half doubles, increase, 5 half doubles, increase, and go on from there. So right now, the top of mine is measuring about 7 inches. I'd call it right at 7 inches. And that is pretty much, so like this is the first hat that I made that I didn't have a pattern for. So if I try to find the top of this hat before it starts to come down, I'd say that's almost spot on. I may be like a 1/4 of an inch off, but that's perfectly fine. Not gonna hurt a thing. Okay, can't stop rubbing on it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that was round 6. We're gonna move on to round 7. And if you are still with me and you're on the kids hat, this is what I want you to do for the kids hat as well as the adult hat. And this is where it gets so much easier. There's no more of the hard stuff. And you'll see what I mean. All right, so we're going to wiggle our fingers in there and find the hole. And then we're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and go right back in there with our half double. We're going to mark it just as normal. And we're going to do this throughout the hat. So, all right, now we just find the next one, half double, into the next one, the half double, into the next one with the half double. And that's all we're going to do, is we're going to half double all the way around. However, I do want you guys to count. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 3 stitches I just worked with you guys, okay? But the reason I want you to count is because that is the only thing that we've got going for us that we can help make sure the hat stays the same size at the top. Stays the same size at the top all the way to our ears, right? Because if we don't count, and let's say we accidentally increase, it's going to get way out, and you're going to know, wait a minute, that's not right. So we are going to count each of the half double crochets, so it's a nice pretty line coming down. Does that make sense? Like, I hope I'm not confusing you guys. So if I show you on this hat. So you see on the sides here and here, see how it makes that nice hat shape, right? So let's say we don't count and we mess up right in here. We're going to lose that pretty shape, and it's going to go way out because it's such that it's going to come way out because that thick yarn that we're using. And we keep working that down, we are going to lose the bowl, come on, get your words out. The bowl shape and dimension that we want for the head. So we need to count so we don't lose track, or we don't accidentally increase and we don't accidentally decrease. How's that? I'll stop trying to confuse you guys. I just about started using that 6mm hook. Okay, so I've worked 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and work around this with you guys on camera. If your stitch count is different, do not get upset, because if I'll tell you what, I would be completely astonished if it was the same. Okay, so I just did 3, and I'm going to go right along here doing what I've been doing. Feel, stitch, feel, stitch, feel, stitch, okay? So that's 3, 4, get in there, 5, and don't forget, a couple of times you guys are going to have a tighter stitch, and that's our increase. 6. After this round, you won't have that tight anymore because we're not increasing. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's my tighter one. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. This one's a little tighter. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, just gonna go a little bit faster, 40, ooh, that one's tight, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, I think I've got one more, 40, ooh, that was a little, 47. Okay, so I have 47 for my adult hat. Now for the kids hat that I made earlier, this one, I had 29. Okay, sorry, I was admiring the soft. All right, so all we're gonna do now is half double crochet all the way around, continuing to count, and make sure you have the same half double crochet, 47, okay? So that way it keeps us from accidentally increasing or decreasing. And eventually you're going to get to where you're going to be able to work your stitch, feel the next, work your stitch, feel the next, work your stitch, feel the next, work your stitch. And you're just going to fly right around it. Because like I said, all you need to do is make sure, you guys are going to love my drawings. Make sure the shape you're feeling is like this. Like it'll be thick right here. Like here's the post of the half double you just worked. Come over and then wiggle your fingers in here and you're gonna feel that gap. And if you feel, you can feel the where the top of it where it comes to like a little point, and then you'll feel it get fatter again when you get closer to the post of the half double you just worked. Okay. I hope I'm not confusing you guys and you guys are going to understand it and everybody will be like, this is the best. I love it. All right. So what I'm going to do is repeat this, and I'm going to repeat, and I'm going to keep track of how many times I just worked the half double crochets around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and then put it on and feel until it comes right under my earlobe, because I want my ears covered. It's like, that's the point of, you know, the faux yarn. We want the our earlobes completely covered, okay? All right, so I'm going to let you guys work this off camera, and I'm going to keep track of how many rounds I have, and you guys can, you know, stick with me and see how we go from there, okay? And how many rounds you guys have. All right, I will be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back, and I worked a total of 9 more rounds of just the half double crochets. Like the first round of half doubles I did with you guys, then I did 9 more, so it was a total of 10 half double crochet rounds without increasing. And now I am just going to slip stitch to that first half double, just right there, chain 1 and pull up a loop and cut. Now, I did want to mention, whenever I tied on that new skein, I just tied it on like normal and just worked around it like it wasn't even there. I do want to say this hat is a little bigger than the original one I made. Like the one that I made before. Like, it's just a tad bit bigger. So I would say maybe this is the size that I made with you guys would probably be perfect for somebody with really thick hair like me. Or, you know, you guys may like the way it fits. It's just a tad bit bigger than the first one I made. But it's good. I like it. Okay. So that is it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed my tutorial. Where's my little kid one? Thank you so very much for watching. Check out my description box where I've got links to my Facebook group, my Instagram, my Twitter, all the social medias. Also down there is my email address if you need any help. And subscribe if you haven't so you don't miss what I've got next. Hit that thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!